Welcome to an additional training on closing your match as a BCYMP mentor. At some point, we reach the termination stage of your mentoring relationship. BCYMP serves K-12 students. Eventually, all of our youth will age out of our program. Please contact the BCYMP office via email as soon as you are entering the last transition phase. So, why 1 year? At the start of your mentoring relationship, we ask for the commitment of 1 year. Research shows when mentoring relationships ends and they end too soon, there is a proven detriment to the child. Mentoring relationships may change over time and may end for a number of different reasons. When the time comes to end your relationship, for whatever the reason, it must be done carefully and thoughtfully. The way the relationship ends can shape what your mentee thinks about and learns from the experience. When entering the final transition stage, one question asked is how early on do you begin to tell your mentee that you are closing the relationship? BCYMP needs at least 3 mentoring sessions after the office is emailed to close a match. However, we prefer to have 6 to 8 weeks to properly close a match. That's about 2 months. And so these 2 months will allow your mentee the needed time to process the eventual closure and end with a structured goodbye. So you might be asking as well, how do I explain it to my mentee? We encourage you to be honest, candid, and supportive. Talk in future orientation terms. Validate any of the feelings that come up and individualize it to the child. So depending on how well they take things, you are repeating yourself, you're rephrasing it. We say a lot of times our match is closing, but to a kiddo, they don't understand what that means. So this will be the last time we see each other. We are going to start closing the match and needing to we'll stop meeting every day, but be very honest and also supportive in whatever they might be feeling. Closing a match means your relationship is closing, not just your mentees. You may want to avoid the conversation with our office, the parenting adult, and your mentee. However, the best thing you can do is talk with the office staff first and let us know so we can help you process and also guide you through the best practice. There may be other feelings that you experience as well. These are just a few of them. Avoidance, sadness. You might be nervous about talking to us or your mentee. You might feel very accomplished. You might feel like you hit some milestones. You helped your mentee excel in something or get something out of it, and it might be very noticeable. On the other side of things, you might think, well, I'm closing, but I don't feel like I did too much, and that's not the case. Just being a supportive person for the child is what your job was. So you might have some guilt though. And so you might also be feeling guilty about closing the relationship. And you might feel relieved. Maybe you had a very hard relationship. Maybe it was hard to work with the mentee, and sometimes it felt like you were pulling teeth. And you might feel relieved that it's closing. You met your 1 year commitment, and you might be ready to be done, and that's okay too. Our relationships will come, and then they will eventually close and hit this termination phase. And so whenever that might happen, whether it's a few years or just the 1 year, all of our relationships, like I said, do come to an end. And just like you, your mentee will have feelings as well. We encourage you to not make assumptions. There may be anger or denial. We just ask you to be prepared and be willing to listen and validate those feelings. They might not reciprocate the same feelings that you have about the relationship, and that's okay. Even though you shared your emotions as a mentor, your mentee may still need time to process and figure out how they are feeling. They might not be comfortable to share everything right away, or even share things kind of as things go on throughout the closing process. So validating feelings and just being a person that's there and willing to listen is what we need. So like we said, I mentioned that we need 6 to 8 weeks is what we recommend in order to have that structured goodbye, or at least 3 mentoring sessions. This is just one more way to challenge the growth of the young person. We are wanting to reflect on that growth, their strengths, their gifts, their accomplishments, but just really encouraging them to continue something that you guys have been starting on. And that's something you can do if you have this structured goodbye. The structured goodbye also provides the opportunity to give them the experience of a non-traumatic loss. So when we, a lot of times, a mentoring relationship could be the first time that they experience someone leaving, and really having that very structured, very just good sense of closure. And that can be a big benefit to these kids. And then as well as one more thing to just highlight, that the structured goodbye ends the mentoring relationship on a positive note. It allows the connection to really be a happy memory. So that's something that they can take away from the relationship as well. So once you are in this transitional phase, we really need you to let us know once you're considering the termination of the mentoring relationship. So once you approach the transitional phase, like I said, we want that time just to help you through the structured goodbye. When we don't have that time, or when it's not, you're not consistent in communication, we have issues that typically kind of arise from that. So we cannot have a closing happen via text, or what's even worse is we don't want you to not have a consistent communication with us, or maybe we just stop hearing from you. Ghosting is, I guess, the term there. So if you are in this relationship, we just really want you to let us know and give us enough time to, versus just closing the match on your own. Then we can help the family through the transition, you, the mentee, and make sure that everyone feels supported. And so that is why it's so important to keep that constant communication with the BCYNP office. So on your last visit, everyone should know the last visit date, and everyone includes the BCYNP office, your mentee, and your mentee's parenting adults. We encourage you to reach out to everyone, and don't assume your message will be communicated from your mentee to the parenting adult. We really want the message to come from you. So as the mentor, that's just one ask of you, is that you communicate not only to us, but also to the parenting adult, and don't have the mentee pass along it through like a message or whatnot. Really try hard to reach out to those parenting adults or whoever you've worked with scheduling for your mentoring sessions. We also encourage that the very last visit to match something that the relationship has looked like. So if you think back on what your sessions have looked like in the past, did you frequently visit a location? Maybe you went to the park quite a bit. Did you enjoy learning a new skill or doing projects or crafts together? But really think about something that's not so much over the top, but instead reflects the very positive moments that have happened between you and your mentee when you're thinking about that last visit. Additionally, we suggest that the last visit include reflection components and reassure your mentee about the confidence you have in him or her. If you have a hope or wish for your mentee, now is the time to encourage them to continue something. But also be sure to include what you are taking away from the mentoring relationship as well. Mentoring relationships are bi-directional, and so whether you have found a higher tolerance for patience, maybe you learn to live in the moment or have a new appreciation for something, but share what you have learned from the mentoring relationship with your mentee. So, like we said, we want to avoid like over the top activities. So, if you're wanting to do something extra, like go bowling, go out to eat, and it wasn't really something that was a good reflection of your relationship, we're not saying don't do it. We're saying like maybe start with that closer to the start of the closing match process. Like we said, if we have these 6 to 8 weeks, then we have the capability to do these extra things or something a little bit more over the top in the beginning, and then concentrate those last 4 sessions on the activities that were more reminders of what your relationship looked like as a whole. So we're saying start with that extra thing, but then end with something that's more just the two of you and really ends it on a good note. So you hopefully can think of like the location or something that really resembles the mentoring relationship. But if you can't, these are some ideas that we put together that can help concentrate on strengths and really maybe open up the conversation between the two of you on what you enjoyed about each other. It gives you moments for reflection. But these are just some activities that we put together. So again, we want everyone to be in the loop. So we ask you to consider other goodbyes as well. So outside of those parenting adult or parenting adults, especially if it was a two household and you might be picking up from a mom one weekend and dad from the next weekend at different locations, it's best that you loop them both into the transition and what's happening. But also take time to consider who these people are outside of the parenting adults. Maybe you jot them down so you don't forget, but whoever ends up on your list, really make it an intentional goodbye. So it might be other family members, maybe a sibling came to the door every single time when you picked up your mentee and said hi, and maybe you got to know them a little bit just through those quick 2 to 3 minute conversations that pick up or drop off of the mentee. It also might be a mentee's friend. Maybe you were taking a mentee's friend along on your mentoring visits or something pretty frequently, or maybe every couple months, but maybe you want to even write a letter or have that intentional goodbye with the friend just to give it a full closure. And then does your mentee need the opportunity to say goodbye to anyone in your family? So have you introduced the mentee to maybe even a family pet, or have you introduced the mentee to your significant other? Or if you have your own kids or grandkids, is that mentee interacting with them on a pretty frequent basis? Then you might want to have one of your last mentoring sessions in that 8 weeks include those important people or include them in the way that you have in the past. So just think about that if there's any other goodbyes that are needed. So to recap, we just want you to reassure your mentee about the confidence in him or her, what you like to, or what you enjoyed about mentoring. Concentrate on what you learned, but really just having those reflection components in the final couple weeks. We also want you to make it clear to the mentee that they didn't do anything to make you leave. Is there a why that you are closing the relationship? Or is there a why that the mentee is reclosing the relationship? Sometimes it involves moving out of the Brookings area. So if that's the case, whether it be on your part or the mentee's part, really thinking about how you can express those feelings. And are you excited? Are you nervous about the move? And or vice versa, if it's the mentee moving, what are they excited about or nervous about? Is there something that you can help them talk through before the match closure? Follow through on commitments. So one of the things that we really want to note too is that if you're saying that you're going to keep in touch on birthdays or something along those same lines, holidays, you might come back once a year. We really want you to be able to keep that commitment. So if you're not going to make it back to the area, or it's just really a really big hope of yours, maybe just it might be best just to close it and have this complete closure and allow everyone to have that as a part of mentoring, and they can continue to grow apart. And that's okay. We don't want you to make promises you can't keep. So if you're going to forget to send that birthday card, or forget with life coming up and life changes happening, we just want you to make sure that you're not making promises you can't keep. And then, of course, never hesitate to contact the BCYMPA staff for any assistance in regard to closing your mentoring relationship or throughout your mentoring relationship. So as we close, usually we get some pretty common frequently asked questions, and this might look like, can we keep in touch? Answer to that is yes, you are able to keep in touch outside the formal mentoring relationship, but it really just needs to be clear and concise of what that looks like, what that commitment is going to be. And if you're not able to keep in touch, or you don't think you can be consistent with it, then we actually recommend that it's just a closure, and you have your structured goodbye, and that is where we end. Another frequently asked question is, I keep getting canceled on, now what? So when you go to close, it's that you gave us that 8 weeks. In that process, as you get canceled on, or as you keep reaching out to the parenting adult and you're having issues, please let us know. We can try to connect with the parenting adult as well and explain the importance of having a structured goodbye and the desire to want to give everyone a closure. But sometimes we understand that doesn't happen. Sometimes the family just ups and moves, and it's not something that the mentor has any control over. And so when that's the case, sometimes we encourage to try and write a letter and have at least some sort of closure for yourself as the mentor. And sometimes then we can get the letter to the mentee. We can find a forwarding address, something like that. So please reach out if you're having at any point any communication issues within the 8 weeks. Let us know so we can try to assist from our office. You also may be asking if you can be a mentor again, and as long as you met your 1-year commitment, we'd love to have you consider mentoring again, or sometimes there's reasons why we can't meet our 1-year commitment, and we can go over that and see if mentoring would be something that would fit into your life in the future. But yes, we can, of course, discuss the mentoring process again with you, especially if you are closing after the 1 year and then wanting to take a break and then come back. We'd love to still welcome you as a mentor. So the last one that I haven't met my 1-year commitment, what do I do? So if you haven't met your 1-year commitment and you're looking at closing your match, we still want the communication to be there. yes, we want to have that 1 year whenever possible, but we understand that sometimes in life, sometimes that 1 year isn't going to happen. We really want it to be pretty rare. But if you're not meeting that 1 year, we really need that communication to be there then. We don't want you to shy away from telling our office. We don't want you to shy away from telling your mentee, but let us help you through that process to make sure that the mentee's left on a good note. And then we can also discuss rematching the mentee as a potential way to continue mentoring for the mentee. If you haven't met your 1 year, please reach out to our office and we can discuss on and figure out like a plan. And that's very helpful for the relationships. But yeah, we want you to really have communication with our office as much as possible during this process. So I think that a lot of times we look at mentoring and we want the mentoring relationship to end with a pretty present wrapped up in a bow, and we want it to look just perfect. We recognize though that that's very hard to do, very hard with everyone's schedules and things that kind of pop up and life circumstances. Sometimes some things are going to be out of your control as the mentor. So we hope that you can take away bits and pieces of this training, of this session, as information just for your toolbox. So when you are looking at closing, or if it's even just a thought in your head, that we can help you through that process. We want you to look at these as just information to consider, but understand too that each of these mentoring relationships are very unique. And so some mentoring relationships are going to be easier to end than others. And whatever your mentoring relationship and the closing process looks like, we are here to support that. So after your last visit, we will ask you to email the BCYNP office staff with an update. This update should include the date of your last mentoring session, and then any notes about your mentee that the office should know, especially if they would like a new mentor. Sometimes it's wonderful if the current mentor can approach the conversation and ask, and almost tells the mentee that it's okay to want a new mentor. It's okay that our match is closing and you might have a similar mentoring relationship with another person. You might be enjoying activities with another person, and that is okay. And so it's helpful if the mentor can kind of start the conversation with the mentee and encourage it. And so if they do want a new mentor, it's very helpful for you as the mentor to let us know. And so then we also would ask in that if there's anything that you can offer to us as far as notes that we can pass along to the new mentor. We would want to know if there's anything that helped with scheduling or any likes or dislikes that your mentee might have. All that is very helpful. And so we can pass that along to the new mentor. We'll also ask you to complete a closing match survey. And this is just something that gives us the opportunity to improve as a program. And then we would want you to fill out any remaining mentoring logs. If you haven't completed all of your logs from the last few months, now's the time to get those in, any additional hours. And then make sure you just include any time spent on trainings such as this, listening to these closing trainings, any activity prep, any activity planning, things like that. Just make sure you're including that in all of your hours. Get those submitted, and then let our staff know with that email update that everything is in, and we will get you closed in our system on our end within our database. So we talk a lot about closing your match, and we also talked about like your mentee and making sure everyone feels supported. And when we say that everyone feels supported, we also encourage you to make sure and understand it's okay to feel whatever feelings or reactions you are having. This was just as much your relationship as it was the mentee's relationship, and so we're all about that. Mentoring is bi-directional, and so just accept your reactions, but how will you take care of yourself? Is there something that you can plan to enjoy? Do you need to be around people? We hear a lot of people go out and clean their cars after they end, just as a way to do something um, to get their mind off it. And I think it's just one of those closure feelings. And so then also, we just want to thank you for your time. Throughout the past year or longer, we have asked for you to complete mentoring surveys. We've asked for you to get in mentor logs, maybe ask for additional help with some things. But whatever it might have been, whether it was just the bare minimum mentoring hours, or if you were overly committed and contributing a lot more, whatever that looked like for you in your mentoring relationship, thank you for your time that you gave to the mentoring program. Again, please don't hesitate to contact the BCYMP office for any assistance in any matter regarding your mentoring relationship. Keep that communication with us, and let us know if you ever want to consider mentoring again.